Oh, I don't know why I just advanced the dialogue without actually starting the video. Hello everyone, welcome back to Ace Attorney, Justice for All. Today we're going to be doing the second half of the trial. In the first half, I'll be honest, all I really remember is my joy for Edgeworth being back and my fear of Old Bag. And that's about it. I mean, I know Andrews is going to be coming in today as a witness, and yeah, that's all that's important. Anyways, though I just advanced the dialogue as soon as I started without thinking. Dude, I can't believe that Adrian. No way. Not cool and collected Adrian Andrews. She is your manager. It would have been very easy for her to pull this off. The only person who had easy access to the knife you used at dinner was, well, her. So after the ceremony, during the break, huh? I was sleeping like a log the entire time. See, she could have also easily played with that blood-covered button in your hakama. I still don't know that she did, though. Because she was the one that came to wake me up? Well, I'm also wondering, because we're supposed to get a verdict today, we're supposed to, like, investigate and have another two-part trial after this, so I don't know how that's gonna work. Then, dude, you're saying it really was her? Yes, she is the real killer. She was the one who murdered Juan Carita. I don't know that she is, Phoenix. But why? I thought she was buds with Juan. She has her own agenda. Her own agenda? What are you talking about? I'm sure you'll see by the time this trial's over. It'll be alright. I'll get you acquitted by the end of today. Get me a verdict that's refreshing like a spring breeze? Okay, Mr. Lawyer Dude. Phoenix, I will never get used to this version of Mia. I hate it. You think her motive is related to Celeste Impax's missing suicide note, right? Yes. Ms. Andrews depended on Miss Impax and her strength and reason to live. But then Ms. Impax suddenly killed herself. It sounds like she left a suicide note, and the person thought to have hidden it is Juan Carita, the victim of this murder. And that's why I think that Ms. Andrews got close to Mr. Carita, all to get the suicide note back. Which could be true, but I don't know that she killed him. That sounds plausible. But one thing bothers me. What? Who was it that first told us about their relationship? Better stated, Miss Andrews' dependency issues with regards to Ms. Impax. It was Edgeworth. It looks like he's still the one in command of this ship. Right, he wouldn't come into this trial with that knowledge and be like, letting it go the way he is. Don't let your guard down yet. It's not her. It can't be.
Court will now reconvene. Now then, Mr. Edgeworth, if you please. I'm still so happy my wacky court is back the way it should be.
The prosecution calls the witness subpoenaed by this court. Miss Adrian Andrews, the person who discovered the crime in Juan Carita's room. I don't really remember the voice I did for her. I meant to, like, go back and look, and I forgot. This happens a lot anymore. What is your occupation? I am the manager of the defendant in this case, Mr. Matt Engard.
I see. Now then.
Before we begin, Your Honor, I have one request.
Yes, sure. What is it?
I'm sure everyone in this room is wondering the same thing. I would love to find out more about my relationship with the victim. After all, it was the topic of a certain weekly magazine recently.
No, I have no idea what you mean. I've never even heard of Gossipland. It's not my favorite magazine article ever.
If the judge was ever a prosecution witness, he'd do all my work for me. Anyway, I was wondering if you could please tell us about your relation to the victim. Yes, I was seeing Mr. Carita. I was also aware of his rivalry that existed between Matt and Juan. This was a private matter between Juan and myself.
So it was a fry and bait matter. Or was that bait and fry? Reminds me of fishing. Oh, I love fishing.
But I didn't kill him. No one is accusing you of that, except Phoenix over there. I think there's someone who would beg to differ.
I agree. Anyways, I think we all understand your relationship with the victim now, Ms. Andrews.
Very well, then. Witness, please testify to the court about what happened when you discovered the murder that had taken place. She still has that card. I like how she's like, I found this in my purse, and she's just been playing with it ever since. She even brought it to court. It was time for the show to start, so I went to get Matt from his room. After that, I went to Juan's room, and there was his dead body. I was in shock. What I saw was naturally the exact same scene as in the crime scene photo. I felt as though I was about to faint, so I poured myself a glass of juice. As you do when you see a dead body. Let me pour myself some juice.
You poured yourself a glass of juice.
Yes, sadly I didn't remember not to touch things at the scene of the crime. And I disturbed the crime scene by moving this one thing. And that is when the fingerprints on the wine glass were made, Your Honor.
I see. Well, Mr. Wright, you may now cross-examine the witness. This is my favorite part.
Phoenix. She's one cool and collected customer, and she has the brains to match. Yes, I know. In order to catch a person like her, you have to avoid head-on confrontations. You should disrupt her pacing. Her voice is too similar to Mia's, but whatever. Mia doesn't talk that much. Disrupt her pacing? She's the type of person who is easily thrown off by things inconsistent with her thinking. So you have to attack when she least expects it. The instant you let up on your offense is the instant this trial is over, understand? Okay, so never let up, got it. I want to know more about this. You were in shock. What, was I not supposed to be? Ms. Andrews is a very calculating person, and despite how close they were, I doubt she had romantic feelings for Mr. Kurita. Anyone randomly stumbling upon a dead body would be in shock. And you can't seriously expect a young beauty like her would not be shocked. Somehow, I don't think beauty has anything to do with being shocked or not.
I see. He's right. A beautiful person would be shocked.
Yes, there was a bottle of tomato juice on the table, so I helped myself. But you didn't drink any of it, did you? You just poured it. Huh? There were no lip marks left on the wine glass to suggest that anyone drank from it. I wasn't feeling terribly great, so I set the glass down without drinking it. Ms. Andrews, I would like to confirm with you one more time. When you discovered the dead body of Juan Kurita, you were in great shock. And that's when you poured yourself the glass of juice, correct? Just doesn't add up, girl. And what of it? My mind really was a complete blank at the time. Your mind was a complete blank. I didn't think that was possible for you. Aren't you rude today? I was so dazed that I made one careless mistake. That one thing. What one thing? Never mind. It's no big deal. What was she starting to say just now? Press further, don't let up. Ms. Andrews, I'm convinced that as you said, you made a mistake at the scene of the crime. What I really want to know is what this mistake was. Actually, so would I. I'm sorry. It's just kind of embarrassing. When I set the glass on the dresser, I accidentally knocked the flower vase over. The way she's standing, it reminds me of like a Barbie.
Flower vase? Are you talking about the one on the floor in the crime photo?
Oh, that one.
This mess of glass shards?
It was originally on top of the dresser, but when I bumped into it with my elbow, it fell onto the guitar case. Why did you withhold such an important piece of information? Why does this always happen to me? I leave in 1 year and the same shit happens. I'm sorry. I thought that since the crime scene was already in disarray, that people would simply assume the vase was just another part of the mess.
Looks like yet another fact has come to light here. Please add this and anything else you have to reveal to your testimony.
I'm sorry, but I have nothing more to add. I didn't touch anything else. Does Edgeworth believe that? I was the one who knocked the flower vase over, where it fell onto the guitar case. Do I have anything to present to that? Let's look at the guitar case. It's empty. There's some water, but only on the lid. There's Karuta's fingerprints. There's only some water. You testified that you knocked the flower vase over. Is this correct? Yes. Are you sure it fell onto the guitar case? Is there some problem with what I said? It's not some problem. It's a major problem. It's true that the top of the guitar case was wet with water, but his fingerprints are still on it. However, that's exactly what is so strange. Ms. Andrews, you testified that the vase fell onto the guitar case. Well, and there's also no glass on the guitar case, like, it's just weird. However, if that was true, the case should have gotten wet on the inside, not the outside. Again, our logic's slightly different, but I got there. I was like, well, the water should have, like, washed the fingerprints off, and it was only a little water, and there should also be glass on the top. And he's like, but it also should have been wet inside. I'm like, yeah, I guess that too.
That's very true.
Furthermore, there is one other strange thing about this guitar case.
And what is that?
Let's take another look at the crime scene photo. The remains of the vase are scattered on the floor.
And what is wrong with that?
If the guitar case was open when the vase fell, the glass shards should be inside, not outside the case. Right. I also just realized, like, when I was envisioning the guitar case, even though in the photo it is wide open, my mind was like, it's closed. And that's why it's only on the top, and it shouldn't have been on the inside. Like, my whole logic, again, this happens so often where my logic for picking something is totally off, but it's right anyway. It's literally because even though in the picture the guitar case is open, I was for some reason envisioning it closed, and I was like, should have washed off his fingerprints, should have been glass on top of the case. It's kind of right. What is your point, Wright? The case was closed at the time the vase was knocked over. Is that all? No, think back to what Ms. Andrews testified to. She said that other than the vase, she didn't touch anything else.
Yes, that's right. I remember it. She did it implicitly. I don't know why that word is so hard for me to say. Say she didn't touch the guitar case.
But this whole matter with the guitar case is a dead end. The Wright guitar was found at the studio. It has no bearing on this case at all. That may very well be, however. The empty guitar case does seem to have no relation to this case, doesn't it?
No, it's gotta. It seems there is no deeper meaning to the guitar case. Well, Mr. Wright, I think we need to hear more details about the guitar case.
Yeah, make her testify. We wouldn't go this in-depth with it for it to be nothing. The empty guitar case. I believe this is a crucial piece of the puzzle. I can't believe anyone would reach for straws like this, but it is you. I can't believe I'm doing this either.
Alright, I'll follow along for now, because I always do, so why not? Miss Andrews, please testify to the court about the guitar case.
Yes, Your Honor. I don't remember too clearly because I was a bit dazed. I suppose I must have opened the guitar case after I knocked the vase over. No, you couldn't have because only his fingerprints are on it. It's not a big deal though, right? The case was empty after all. As for why I opened the case, even I don't know.
It looks like this really wasn't a very important point.
This wastefulness is such a familiar feeling by now that it's almost comforting. Ah, how I missed the wacky court.
Edgeworth, you missed it too? Oh, that makes me so happy.
Anyway, I'll just go ahead and start the cross-examination. In case you both have forgot, I need to do that.
I'm fusing anyway to change the topic. A convenient escape for a weak man.
What are you saying, Edgeworth? Okay, you couldn't have. You couldn't have because your fingerprints weren't there. There is no way you were the one who opened the guitar case.
Why would you say that?
It's elementary, my dear. Because the only fingerprints on this guitar case are those of the victim.
Ah.
What is it, Miss Andrews?
You shouldn't assume that I must have left fingerprints just because I touched the case.
What do you mean?
What if I were to tell you that I was wearing gloves at the time?
Gloves? Why would you be wearing gloves at the time?
It couldn't have been because your fingerprints were on the glass. It was the night of the awards ceremony, so of course I dressed up for the occasion. Yes, now I remember. I'm almost sure I was wearing a pair of thin gloves.
I see. Well, Mr. Wright, it seems the witness was wearing gloves at the scene of the crime. I believe her.
Totally. No, that's strange. You were wearing gloves. Isn't that a little strange?
Why is that strange? Do you have something that would prove I was not wearing gloves at the time?
Yeah, the wine glass. Your fingerprints are on those. I have your proof right here. This wine glass.
The wine glass?
You left your fingerprints very clearly on this wine glass.
Ah.
Even if you took your gloves off when you poured yourself this glass of juice, wouldn't you think it was just a little strange that you put your gloves back on just to open the guitar case?
Ah.
Can we acknowledge the fact that she got so shocked it broke her glasses, and then she just casually pulled out another pair? This must happen often. She was prepared for that.
Order! Order! Order!
Looks like you hit the nail on the head this time.
What do you mean?
I believe that guitar case plays a very important role here.
But it's just an empty case.
I wonder if it really was empty, though.
But the guitar, the bright red guitar, was at the studio.
Phoenix, drop all of your presumptions. What was in the guitar case was not the bright red guitar.
You don't mean it was a bright white guitar? Wait, that's not right either. You were onto something there, Phoenix.
I admit it would be unnatural for someone to do that. So the witness was not wearing gloves despite the fact that on the case...
Your Honor, this is obviously the defense's usual misdirection tactic at work.
And again, it always works. I always get to the right answer. I'm never doing misdirection. Why does everyone say this?
Stay the court towards an unrelated topic and lull us all into his misguided...
No, Your Honor. Please recall that Ms. Andrews had testified that the vase fell onto the case, and also that I'm never wrong. I'm never misguiding anyone. Which means that the case was closed when the crime took place. However, it's wide open in this photo of the crime scene. I'm sure this guitar case has some relation to the murder.
If you are so sure, right? Then I'm sure you can somehow substantiate your outrageous claim, correct? Please enlighten us as to why that guitar case has anything at all to do with this murder.
Can you do that, Mr. Wright? Please, for me.
Well, let's suppose for a second that the bright red guitar was not the only thing that could have been in the case.
Bright red guitar not being the only thing. You don't mean to suggest that a bright black guitar...
We're on the same wavelength, Judge.
I know.
So, anyways, you intend to push your theory that the case was not empty. Is that it, right?
I wouldn't say something I didn't intend to prove.
Deflate that head of yours. You haven't proven anything yet. Now then, let's have it. What was inside this case at the time of the murder?
question. Is it a person? It was old bag. Old bag was in there. Turn the nickel Sam. Could it be the costume? That's the only thing I can think. Because it was her that left in the costume?
This is a photograph.
Yes, but what is important is what is in that picture, Your Honor.
In this picture.
Doesn't take a genius to see what I mean. What I'm proposing is,
Hey, I'm a genius.
inside the guitar case was the Nickel Samurai, the hero's very own costume. I was right. I was right. I wasn't quite sure about that one, but I did it.
What?
Mr. Wright, explain yourself.
Right, are you saying that the witness opened the guitar case to take out a costume? What insane point would there be to doing something like that?
That insane point would be to wear the costume, of course. Miss Andrews put it on to hide her identity so she could make her escape. After all, you couldn't let anyone see you leave, could you, Miss Andrews?
I refuse to accept your theory. Do you have anything to support such a preposterous idea?
Just outside the door was an investigative photographer who was starving for a big scoop. And in the end, she managed to get that shot, remember, correct?
You mean this photo? Order. Looks like we've wandered into quite another mess again, haven't we? That is life.
Nice job, Phoenix.
Well, you know my strategy. Speak first, think later.
The real murderer was hiding inside a costume.
Wait 1 second, Your Honor. The Nickel Samurai's costume would have been Matt and Guard's. Why would something of the defendants be in the victim's room? And inside the guitar case of all places?
True. That is a little baffling. Mr. Wright, the court would like to hear your thoughts. What was the Nickel Samurai costume doing inside the guitar case?
Nah. Is it spare? Because wasn't he wearing the costume anyway? So it had to have been an extra. Mr. Engard did not take his costume off during the break period. In that case, the costume we are talking about was a spare one.
What?
Then are you saying that on the night of the murder, there were 2 Nickel Samurai costumes at the Gatewater Hotel?
Yes, that is what I'm saying.
And how do you explain the costume that was inside the guitar case?
It would mean that the victim himself brought this spare to the ceremony on purpose.
Which would explain why he left his guitar behind if he was bringing that.
But why? The victim, Mr. Kurita, was the Jammin' Ninja. Why would he secretly bring the Nickel Samurai's spare costume with him? What could be the reason behind such a peculiar act? I wonder.
And therein lies the sticking point.
What are you mumbling to yourself about now? Have you just been rambling all this time without any sense of inner monologue?
No, I just...
Mr. Wright, please explain yourself. Do you have no inner monologue? Why do you think the victim had the Nickel Samurai's spare costume?
Phoenix, are you sure you can explain this one? Think carefully before you answer, and then answer with gusto. I believe in you.
Alright, this is what I think. The reason the victim brought the Nickel Samurai spare costume to the hotel was... Okay, so, it's not the photo. It could be the press conference ticket because Matt says he doesn't know anything about the show, so maybe Kurita was gonna go in his place to do something. No. Can't be. No. Nope. I think it's this. It's the only thing it could be. He was gonna, like, go to the press conference at his place or something to do whatever it was he was gonna do.
What is this?
On the night of the murder, after the stage show, the Nickel Samurai was going to hold a special press conference.
A press conference? How fun.
Yes, the Nickel Samurai was supposed to confess something to this conference.
I heard about this as well. For once you're not making something up, right?
But what struck me as strange was that Mr. Engard himself said he had no idea he was supposed to be holding a press conference that night.
But how can that be?
The way I see it, it can only mean one thing. The conference was set up by none other than the victim, Mr. Juan Carita himself.
The victim?
Yes. The spare Nickel Samurai costume was prepared for that very conference. Mr. Carita was going to hold the press conference as the Nickel Samurai.
He was going to dress up as the Nickel Samurai and hold a conference. But why would the victim do such a thing? That's terrible.
That's something I don't quite know yet, however. What I am concerned with right now is what he intended to reveal at that conference.
Nickel Samurai was going to confess to something. And by confess, I'd wager he was going to reveal something about himself.
Which means that Juan Carita, posing as the Nickel Samurai, was going to speak about Matt and Guard.
Yes, I guess that is what that would mean.
But if that's the case, it's not a confession, that's a public disclosure.
I don't know if he cared about that.
Humph.
Miss Andrews?
I can see why you're pros at what you do.
Pardon me? I'm a pro? Wow, thank you.
Yes, just as you say, the press conference was set up by Juan.
Miss Andrews, please offer us an explanation for this.
I was the one he asked to help set it up. And the person who prepared the second costume for him. That was also me.
You?
Juan had bet everything on the Jammin' Ninja this year. And if he lost the Grand Prix, he was going to make sure Matt was going down with him. That's what he thought anyway.
He was going to ruin him, huh? How rude.
It looked like somehow Juan had in his hands a secret so powerful that it would destroy Matt's career had it been revealed.
What?
And you know what the secret of Mr. Engard's is, Miss Andrews? What could it be?
It's something only Juan knew. I don't know what it is.
Ah, I see.
Does Matt know what it is?
Seems kind of aloof.
I've probably been coming off quite suspicious to everyone, but that's to be expected. I've been trying to protect Matt after all.
Protect Mr. Engard?
It appears she has, and yet again, another strange bit of truth comes to light, it seems. Miss Andrews, if you could please tell us the truth about your behavior.
Yes, Your Honor, I understand.
Protecting Matt.
From the moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer. Matt had to kill Juan no matter what. And he didn't have an alibi for what he was doing at the time of the murder. My thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course. The button and the knife. But I'm Matt's manager, so I felt that I had to protect him.
This does account for everything.
Well, I am the logical type. We're finally seeing her true self. She's more nervous than a scared rabbit.
If the defense can find no fault with this testimony, I'm ready to make a ruling. Please keep that in mind as you cross-examine Mr. Wright.
Fine, Judge. Looks like somehow everything has swung to the opposite end of the scale again. That just means I have to put my weight into this and turn her logic upside down. Again. Okay, how would you have known about the button? You can hardly call the knife decisive evidence. The fingerprints on the knife could very well be a clever camouflage. I didn't stumble over those words. Yes, you did, right. Shut up, Edgeworth.
Then, what about the button?
The button?
It's clear from the crime scene that the victim and his murderer fought. And during the fights, the killer ripped the button from the Jammin' Ninja's costume.
You're talking about this button, correct?
That button was found in the pleats of Matt's cama, isn't that correct? I would think that makes it very decisive evidence.
How do you know about that? Unless you heard about it afterwards? I don't know.
Looks like you were outfoxed again, Mr. Wright.
Anyway, the knife doesn't prove a thing. Please fix your testimony.
I can't stand the sight of a man who can't gracefully accept his defeat.
Thank goodness Mia can still look at me.
With an icy stare, yes.
Miss Andrews, for Mr. Wright's sake, please add this information to your testimony.
That button was torn off of Juan during his fight with Matt.
Let's see. Showing the costume. There's no sign of a fight in the autopsy report. Like, he was strangled, then stabbed. Yes? There's no sign of a fight. This is the victim's autopsy report. It clearly states that the cause of death was strangulation by a scarf. A starf.
Strangulation?
She's making it sound like they, like, fought and then he got stabbed, but that's not what happened. The knife stab to the victim was done after the victim had already died. Not before. That was not his cause of death. There was no fight. He just got strangled.
And what does that mean?
Let's examine the evidence. This button has the victim's blood on it, which would mean that it was ripped off of the costume. When?
After the knife was stabbed into the victim.
Exactly. Which means it's impossible that this button was torn off during the victim's final struggle, because the victim was strangled to death in that fight. That's right, Miss Andrews. There is no way this button was ripped off during the struggle. This button was consciously pulled off of the victim's already dead body.
Order, order. What is the meaning?
What is the meaning of this, Wright?
That's what I was going to say. We're on the same wavelength, Mr. Edgeworth.
So what if the button was torn off the body after the victim had already died? What does that change?
Let me ask you one simple question, Mr. Edgeworth. Why was the button torn off? What purpose did that serve?
What purpose?
We now know that this button was not torn off during the fight. So the murderer took the time and effort to purposely rip this button from the victim's body. That would mean that the murderer had something in mind, wouldn't it?
Mr. Wright, does this mean you know what the murderer wanted to do with the button? What was it?
He wanted to pin the crime on Engard. That would be the only reason to do it. There's only one logical reason for doing something like that. It was to pin the crime on Mr. Engard. There was no way anyone would put a bloody button in their own pants. That's right, Mr. Engard was set up. By the real killer, of course.
And the real murderer is... Well, Mr. Wright, who in the world is the real killer then?
Finally. I can't believe I managed to bring this trial all the way up to this point.
Phoenix, you can't let your guard down yet. Not until the very end.
I'm so surprised. The real killer, the person who planned to frame Mr. Engard is...
I guess Adrian Andrews. That doesn't feel right, though. Ms. Adrian Andrews. I choose you. You are Mr. Carida's killer.
What?
Get out your next pair of glasses, girl.
Order, order, order! Mr. Wright, it's a very grave matter. Do you have any evidence that supports the charge?
Any evidence? All the evidence points to Ms. Andrews.
How preposterous. You can't stick any of that on me.
I can't, can I? Would you care to test me?
Then what about this knife?
The knife was used to stab the victim after he had already been strangled to death. It was used to throw suspicion onto Mr. Engard naturally. A knife covered in the defendant's fingerprints could only be taken from his room. And the only one who had dinner with him and knew which knife to take was you.
Then, what about the button that was found in Matsukama?
This button was removed from the victim's body after he had already died. The only people who could have done so were the person who found his body or the killer. However, if Mr. Engard was the real killer, there's no way he would have put such incriminating evidence in his own hakama. Next pair of glasses. Yep, there you go. She's prepared. This happens all the time. The only person who could have put this button into Mr. Engard's hakama is the person who went to wake him up from his nap, which is you, yet again, Ms. Andrews.
I see. What about the empty guitar case?
There's also another piece of evidence that incriminates Ms. Andrews. That costume was used to hide the real killer's identity as they fled the crime scene. Now, who could have known that there was just such a costume inside the guitar case? It could have only been the person who prepared the costume for the victim. And that person is you, Ms. Adrian Andrews.
No, But Miss Andrews' fingerprints were nowhere to be found on the guitar case. And it was you who proved that she was not wearing gloves at the time.
That's right.
That's because she did not intend on leaving any prints. If anyone had found out that she had touched the case, they would have asked her why. So to avoid leaving any prints, she used a towel or something else to open it. But the glass of tomato juice is a different story. Ms. Andrews purposefully left her fingerprints on that glass to show that, yes, indeed, she was the classic dazed discoverer of a dead body. Next pair of glasses. And to top it all off, there's this photo. A photo of the killer as they exited the scene of the crime. No reasonable person on Earth can believe this Nickel Samurai is Mr. Engard. Could be much too short for his own costume if it was him. Speaking of how tall people are, Ms. Andrews, you're also kind of short in stature, are you not?
Please stop.
Well, how about it, Ms. Andrews? Got her this time.
Ms. Andrews?
I refuse to testify.
What was that?
There's a law. It says I can't be forced to testify about something if it can incriminate me.
Well, yes. You're absolutely correct, Ms. Andrews.
You're pulling a what's-his-face, the orange guy. Can't believe I forgot his name after how much I hated him. The police chief dude from the last game. He did something similar.
The law does provide us with a way to avoid self-incrimination by allowing a witness to not testify if the testimony can cause damage to themselves.
What? Pleading the fifth is not something most people would think to do on the spot. Actually, thinking back to yesterday in Mr. Engard's room...
Adrian Andrews. Yes?
Think hard about what we just discussed. Understood?
All right.
That's it. That's when Francisca planted this idea into her head. Curse you, Francisca, you're not even here and you're haunting me. She must have told Miss Andrews to not testify if things looked bad.
You did a good job proving everything up to this point, Phoenix. There's still one thing you haven't done.
Something I haven't done?
What's wrong, Wright? Are you finished already? Run out of evidence?
What is so humorous, Mr. Edgeworth? Please enlighten me.
I'm sure you realize this as well, Your Honor. But everything the good lawyer here has proven up to this point is meaningless.
What?
Everything you've proven is circumstantial.
Circumstantial?
Yes, circumstantial. You have yet to prove a single piece of definitive proof. Proof that Miss Andrews did in fact harbor a wish to murder Mr. Corrida.
Miss Andrews, did you want to kill Mr. Karita?
I believe this may lead to me incriminating myself, so I will abstain from answering.
That, in a way, is almost kind of saying it.
But Miss Andrews, if you do that, it would be the same as admitting your guilt, don't you think?
Maybe so, or maybe not. There's nothing to prove it either way. Besides, you don't even know what crime I would be guilty of due to my silence.
No. She's taking that defiant attitude again. Mia, what should we do?
Somehow we've landed in the worst possible situation.
Oh, that's always good.
I think we have reached a certain conclusion at this point in time. Miss Adrian Andrews has refused to testify, and the defense's theory that she is the actual murderer has not been fully substantiated with solid, definitive proof.
But that's not true.
In this situation, there's only one thing this court can do, and that is to declare a recess. Hooray, recess.
Recess? Again? You normally only do one of those, Judge.
I'm really missing the slides right now. I request that both the prosecution and the defense look further into this matter. And at tomorrow's trial...
Tomorrow? We don't have a tomorrow. If we don't get a not guilty verdict today, then... Edgeworth? No, me. Please wait, Your Honor. That's not necessary.
The slides!
The trial, please continue the trial.
What are you sweating for? Your client is getting one more day to live, isn't he?
Yeah, but Maya's not. That's not it. This isn't about that. Edgeworth, I know you know who the real killer is. Please, let the trial continue. If I don't get the verdict, then Maya... It's like, what are you talking about?
But it's impossible to continue as long as the witness refuses to testify. Now then, this court is...
Edgeworth? Yes?
It is not impossible for this trial to continue.
Something about what we said about Maya had him like,
Miss Edgeworth, what are you...
It's true, Miss Andrews holds the right against self-incrimination. However, if the topic of conversation was something unrelated to whatever she may be guilty of, then she has no right to withhold testimony.
Yes, that is very true, but...
Actually, there is one little thing I'm curious about. Miss Andrews, when you found the victim's dead body, you poured yourself a glass of juice. Still really weird, but anyway. Yes, and... I can't help but think how unnatural that is. Usually when one finds a body, they are shaken up, not stirring a glass of juice. So my actions were unusual, but I've already... Before you speak, I want to state that if you have a reason behind your actions, I would like you to testify to that effect. Testify? Your Honor, I would like to request that the witness testify again as to what happened when she first discovered the victim's body. Whatever we find out in this testimony should in no way implicate the witness.
Thank you, Edgeworth. I love you.
I don't know what it is about Edgeworth today, but I can't get a good read off of him. Is he friend or foe? I just don't know.
He's my love.
The court acknowledges the prosecution's request. Miss Andrews, if you please.
When I found the body...
That glass of juice, I didn't really pour it for myself. I was surprised when I walked into the room and saw it in that messy state. And Juan, he was sitting slumped over and tired looking in the corner. When I saw him sitting like that, the thought that he was dead didn't cross my mind.
He had a knife in his chest.
To be honest, I thought he had just fainted or something, so I went to pour him some juice. When I realized that he was dead, that's when I knocked the flower vase over.
You couldn't not realize because he had a knife in him.
So you poured that glass of juice for the victim. How very thoughtful of you. Why didn't you just say so in your earlier testimony?
I didn't think I needed to include something so trivial. Phoenix, please be careful here. If you can't find anything wrong with this testimony, then there's nothing left.
I know. Edgeworth, what the heck is going on in that brain of yours?
Now then, Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination.
Okay. Okay, you thought... Or the thought hadn't crossed your mind. Okay. I think... Where's the picture of... Here, the crime photo. So you honestly didn't think he was dead when you found him?
No, not at all.
Even though this is what you saw when you discovered the body.
Ah,
What is the meaning of this?
Isn't it obvious, Your Honor? There's a knife sticking straight out of Mr. Kurita's chest. Anyone who saw this scene would have immediately thought that there was a dead man.
that's... Well, you see...
I doubt a single person in the world would make this would mistake this for someone who fainted. And then so nonchalantly go pour something to drink.
Your point is...
Miss Andrews, your testimony just now, it was all one giant lie.
Ah,
Another pair. And your lie has proven one thing very clearly. That you are the real killer. I still don't know about that, though.
no.
Unless she is, I don't know.
It looks like the defense has somehow brought the ugly truth to light. The defendant, Mr. Matt Engard, is not guilty after all.
But that's impossible. You're wrong.
Miss Andrews, try to have some composure.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me, I tell you. It was Matt. I swear it. He's the one who killed Juan.
But you were the one who refused to testify. And your reason for not doing so was that you might end up incriminating yourself.
That's because...
Miss Andrews, I will give you one last chance. What exactly are you hiding that may incriminate you?
I refuse to testify.
That's your own fault, girl.
Then there is no need for this court to continue any further. Mr. Matt Engard's innocence has been clearly demonstrated.
Is it over? It can't be. There's too much left to go. Have we found the truth at last?
What's wrong, Phoenix?
Usually the real killer confesses his or her guilt. Now that I think about it, this is the first time someone hasn't.
Now then, I would like to hand down my verdict for Mr. Matt Engard.
Your Honor? The prosecution feels that it would be premature to pass down a verdict at this time.
What?
The reason is quite simple. This witness has yet to speak the absolute real truth.
That's true.
The absolute real truth. What do you...
Witness, don't you understand yet? Huh? I don't know who planted this silly idea in your head, but as long as you protect yourself through your silence, Matt Engard will go free, and in his place, you will become the guilty party. That's a lie. I don't believe you. What? I was told if I spoke, then it would be all over, and Matt would never be declared guilty.
What in the world is she talking about? Has she lost it?
I can't speak about it. I'm too scared. It's Franziska von Karma.
Huh?
Don't you remember, Phoenix? Miss Andrews lives by gripping tightly onto the words of another. Because she doesn't have the strength to believe in herself.
But then right now, Miss Andrews is...
Yesterday, she was tossed a lifesaver by Ms. von Karma. Don't say a word, no matter what happens. If you do, Matt Engard will be acquitted. Miss Andrews undyingly believes in those words right now and is clinging onto them.
Then what should we do? This is the first time I've ever come across anything like this. But Miss Andrews has to be the killer, right? All we have to do now is get her not guilty. That was my only priority.
It wasn't me. I'm begging you, please believe me. I didn't kill Juan. Help, please. Someone, help me.
Mr. Wright,
Yes, Your Honor?
the court can't continue on like this. Therefore, I'd like to hear what you intend to do.
I don't know. what I intend to do? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say?
Right, I suggest you think very carefully about this. Think about what this witness did and what she did not do. And think about who is the real mastermind behind this crime.
Who's the real mastermind? It's not obvious. There's no one else it could be except the woman crying right over there, right? Maybe it's the killer.
Come now, what will you do? What kind of a man are you, Mr. Phoenix Wright?
I'm forced her to testify. I have to win a complete acquittal today. There's no way around that. But I can't bring myself to do it like this. Not when she's making a face like that. Ms. Andrews, I would like to know what you're really hiding.
Mr. Wright, are you sure you know what you're doing?
Sure, Mr. Engard would get an acquittal, but in his place, you would be found guilty. Is this how you really want this trial to end?
Be quiet. How dare you? You're trying to trick me.
That's enough. I commend you for trying, Mr. Edgeworth. However, it's clear that the defense's theory is the truth.
You're wrong.
Then testify, girl!
What a shame. I had hoped things wouldn't come to this. However,
What is it, Mr. Edgeworth?
Miss Andrews, since you absolutely refuse to testify, it falls on my shoulders to disclose this to the court. Stop.
Mr. Edgeworth,
This witness, how should I put this? She has an illness. What? And because of this illness, she's tried to commit suicide in the past.
Yeah, he brought it out.
Stop, please stop. No matter how much you want to hide it, it's no use. I have the evidence right here.
He's gonna force her to.
That's
That's the second part of the suicide report. The attempted suicide report.
What will you do now, witness? You know what I'm about to do, don't you? I will now reveal to the court the true nature of the pitiful woman known as Adrian Andrews.
The secret of her dependent nature. Having other people know about it scares her more than anything else in the world.
Please stop. I beg you. If people find out, I'll...
It's your play, girl!
If you're going to say you would choose death, that is no concern to me.
Edgeworth, how can you be so cold?
However, before you die, I will pull the truth from your still breathing lips. No matter what I have to do.
Dang, Edgeworth! He kind of didn't have a choice, though. Like, yeah, it sucks. But I think Edgeworth very clearly wants the truth in this case as well. And we're not gonna get it unless she opens her mouth. And there was literally no other way to make her open her mouth.
So, will you tell the court yourself, or shall I? Either is fine with me. I'll talk, but please, help me. Nothing matters anymore.
My crime.
When I first saw him, I really thought he had fainted, honest. When I realized he was dead, that was when I formulated my plan. Once I made sure there was no one in the hallway, I made a dash back to Matt's room. And then, I stabbed Juan's body with a knife and ripped off the button. Just when I finished and was returning to Matt's room, I had a bit of an inconvenience. And that's why I ended up using the nickel samurai costume.
stab the body with the knife. But why would you do that?
Isn't it obvious? To pin the blame on a certain person.
Why? Who did it that you would want to pin it on? Him, though.
A certain cowardly man.
What do you mean by all of this?
It might take this court a little while to understand, but this is the truth. The real killer is Matt. That scumbag of a man. I'll never forgive him. He's trying to escape his guilt again, just like last time.
Last time?
So, Miss Andrews stabbed the victim, Juan Carita, in the chest with the knife.
Did he maybe have something to do with
impacts his death? Rather, she didn't do it with murder in mind. She did it with the intent of framing Matt Engard for the murder. And this is her crime.
What? How is this possible? I mean, wasn't Miss Andrews supposed to be the real murderer?
Mr. Wright, please get over your shock and commence the cross-examination.
Is this one that I'm supposed to, like, press on everything because it's all totally new? I mean, it doesn't hurt you to press. Maybe I should anyway. If I happen to come across the one I need, then awesome. But you could tell from the state of the room was in that there must have been a fight. Are you telling me the truth when you say that you did not know he was dead?
He had a scarf tied around his neck, but that scarf is a part of the Jammin' Ninja's costume, so I didn't think anything about it was strange. His head was also tilted down a bit, so I couldn't see his face that well. That's why I thought I'd wake him up, and went to pour out the juice.
Okay, you formulated your plan. What is this plan you had?
I knew right away the murderer was Matt. I knew because he was going to expose Matt's weak point to the world.
But Matt didn't know.
So Matt did this to stop Juan and silence him for good. That's when I thought I should forge some evidence and pin this crime on Matt. Here are the forged pieces of evidence with a knife and the button. The first thing that came to mind was to plant the knife.
Okay. That was so you could get the knife, correct?
The knife Matt used at dinner had his fingerprints all over it. I thought if I used that, then the police would certainly turn their eyes towards him. Matt was napping with his costume on at the time. I slipped in, took the knife, and returned to the scene of the crime.
So you were the one to stab the victim with the knife?
It gives me goosebumps to think about it now. What a horrible thing I did. But at the time, I couldn't control my own body. It moved on its own. Then when I stabbed Juan's dead body, I suddenly realized something. If I used the button somehow, I could make Matt look even more suspect. So you thought to rip one of the buttons off and plant it in Mr. Engard's Hakama? Yes, that's what I had planned to do. But things never go that smoothly, do they?
Okay, what was the inconvenience? An inconvenience?
There was a woman with a camera at the ready, loitering in the hallway.
I'm willing to bet my spikes that it was Lotta.
There was also a woman with a ray gun at the ready, pacing back and forth.
A bag and a ray gun? That's Miss Old Bag for you.
I had already been caught and made into a big scoop for a certain weekly tabloid once, so I couldn't very well go out looking like myself and get caught again.
You were the one who prepared that costume, weren't you?
Yes, I took it from Global Studios. I also put it into Juan's guitar case the day before the awards ceremony. You did this in preparation for the press conference, correct? Yes, Juan wanted to wear that costume and hold a press conference in it. He was going to disclose Matt's big secret there.
And what is this secret?
That I don't know. Anyway, I thought that if I were to leave Juan's room in the Nickel Samurai costume, then people would think that Matt was the real murderer. I was very careful not to leave any fingerprints when I opened the guitar case. I absolutely did not want anyone to know about the costume.
That basically erases all the evidence that it was Matt, though. Because it was literally all just planted by you. Because you just made the assumption it was him based on the press conference, but Matt didn't even know it existed.
I think we've heard enough. So after that, you went back to Mr. Engard's room and planted the button.
Into Matt's Hakama? Yes. After that, I folded up the costume I was wearing and put it into a bag. Then I snuck it out of the hotel and got rid of it.
My word. What does all this mean?
Mr. Edgeworth, is it? The real criminal is Matt Engard.
There's no evidence, though.
Yesterday, that woman prosecutor sat me down for a talk.
Francisca, huh?
She said that I should, under no circumstances, confess to what I had done. That if I just kept quiet, then Matt would be found guilty for sure. I had no choice but to believe in her words.
What this witness has done is clearly unlawful. However, as long as her testimony stands, we can be certain she is not the real killer.
Wait, Your Honor. The defense still...
Right? It's pointless. At this point in time, it is not possible to indict Miss Andrews on anything.
He is right. Yes, exactly. There isn't a single piece of evidence that points to her as the murderer. Cross-examination of this witness is over, and so is today's trial. We couldn't establish that the witness was the culprit. Please let it go, Mr. Wright.
But...
Mr. Edgeworth, please place Miss Andrews under arrest for further questioning.
Understood, Your Honor. The prosecution will arrange for her detention immediately.
That is all. Court is adjourned for today. Well,
that's not good. He left quick.
I was late for Mahjong. I'm gone now.
Now it's just us. Today's trial. It's over. I didn't win an acquittal.
Witness, would you mind if I asked you something?
Edgeworth?
What is it? Before you leave court today, I wondered if I might look at one thing. The card in your hand. It's had my interest for quite some time now. What exactly is it? Oh, this? Mr. Wright also asked me about this. Although I didn't remember at the time you asked me about it. Mr. Wright, I remember just now. I found this in the room that day.
You've just been playing with it, and you literally brought it to court. The room?
That day? Yes.
So the scene of the crime.
I found this card when I discovered Juan's body. It was lying there right next to him.
You found that card next to the victim's body?
I suppose I must have unconsciously slipped it into my pocket. But it's not as if this card has any relevance to Juan's murder, right?
Yeah, I guess not, but it's still a strange card if you ask me. But as far as a clue to this case, I don't see why.
Witness, that card!
Give it to me! What does Edgeworth know? Edgeworth?
You have any idea what you have stupidly yet inadvertently done? This... I can't believe you hid this from me all this time. I didn't mean to. What is this all about?
I've never seen Edgeworth so emotional before.
What is it?
I mean, we saw it where Maya is. The card. What in the world is it? What does it mean? It's gonna to be continued us, isn't it? Ah! Darn it, now we have to wait. Ah! Hey, guess we'll find out next time. I wonder if that card is like a very obvious sign of this to killer person and they're actually more well known and like maybe Edgeworth knows about it. Like Edgeworth has to, because that card we saw where Maya was. So Edgeworth has to know something and this is probably gonna like show who really did it. I am wondering how this is gonna go though, because we said one day. I don't think we're investigating and going back to trial again today, so I'm so curious. Is Edgeworth gonna tell us stuff? Oh, I wanna know. I wanna know so bad. So I was right. It's not Andrews, but she did kind of commit a crime, just not the crime. I don't think we've met the killer yet. It might be the killer. I'm so curious, but unfortunately, we have to wait. So for right now, I'm gonna go ahead and go. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!